Ms. Rowena Velasco, and of course, the man who honored the memory of my mother, Mr. Ramon Ang, members of Congress, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. I was not expecting a crowd. Akala ko yung tayo-tayo lang. And that's why I came in with a t-shirt. But anyway, I am very, very late because I had to go to a place where I had a hard time negotiating pababa. It was raining very hard in the mountains and you could just not make it on time. If you want to make it faster, then baka hindi na aabot dito sa gabing ito. So my apologies to you all for indulging me, waiting for me. Ako po'y anak lang ng mahirap. My mother was just a teacher. And I remember when we migrated here in Davao City, kami yung mga anak, iniwan muna sa lolo at lola namin sa Bohol, where my grandmother, kasi nag-migrate silang dalawa dito. Both teachers at that time. Though my father was a lawyer, there was not much really to go around those days. Natikman ko po ang kahirap sa buhay. Came here about mga 4, 5, 6, 7 until, you know what, at the back of the Ateneo University, dyan sa Rojas, or Jacinto if you're on the other side, street. Ang tatay ko po ay gumawa ng isang bahay. Lumber, hindi naman talaga yung tipong mahirap na mahirap. Because at that time, at the back of the Ateneo, kayong mga old-timers, ang tawag niyan kumpayan, yung kugon sa tubig na pinapakain sa kabayo. And I thought that since that was early time, my father thought that there was enough land, although he wanted to choose yung sa likod nga ng Ateneo ngayon, yung Sinto, dahil malapit sa Main Street. Claveria noon yan. And you know what, after about mga 3 years, we found out, he told me, he found out that lahat ng ang Davao noon at that early was already titled in the so many names na ang karamihan ho ay mga Tagalog. You know, hindi nila kasalanan. Ang Pilipinas noon, when the Americans left, of course, they were the first to utilize, to exploit the country, Mindanao. Kasi alam nila walang typhoon and you can just throw anything there at the time sa mga bundok and it will grow. Eh wala storms, walang lahat. So pinili nila dito. And you would realize that Davao at the time was just divided into few names. As a matter of fact, all American Filipinos already. Yung mga cadastral, pati yung 24, if you're a corporation, hectares, 7 homestead. Ganun ho ang nangyari. And because the Americans wanted to develop the island, and kaso kasi at that time, or until now, maybe, na pagka-Amerikano ka, Kristiyanos ka. And so during the times of the Spaniards for the 400 years that they stayed here, and the Americans for 50 years, they live on the fat of the land, I would say. Sila una na kinabang. But they could hardly get workers from the Moro population because nobody wanted to work for them. And so there came about this sloganeering, go to Mindanao because it is the land of promise. At this stage, may kasalanan ho akong malaki. Ang problema, nakalimutan ko, excited kasi ako sa feelings ko, ma'am. My President, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, welcome at magandang gabi po sa iyong lahat. I told you before, you were still President. It was election time. I said, Ma'am, I am a loyal friend. Nothing, no big deal. Except that along the way, talagang lalo na yung nagkagulo-gulo na. I just kept my faith to myself also. But someday, that explains I was never really close to, though I supported President Aquino. I was never into in the company of the elite. For the 6 years na siyang nasa Malacanang, ay hindi ako napasok doon ni minsan. Kaya panahon ni Ma'am Gloria, almost every week ako doon nagre-report because I was appointed as a consultant for law and order. We'll go back to our odyssey here. Yun lang ako, anak lang ako I grew up, yung mga ibang kapatid ko, the last 3, wala na yun because my father became the governor. It was only one Davao then. There was no Davao Oriental, Davao Norte, Sur, Davao Occidental. The Davao City was already the capital of one Davao. Nung namatay ang tatay ko, pinaghati-hati na nila yun. But that moment of yung medyo maganda ang buhay namin was because, governor receives a salary more than the rest of everybody in government. Doon lang kami nakatikim ng but when I was even studying at sa Manila, I never had the company of yung mayayaman. Wala talaga ako yung tipong lang ako middle class na ito ibig kong sabihin. Ganun lang kami, pero you would notice that my father was a soldier. Actually, my father was the first military mayor of Danao City right after the liberation ng Philippines. Nakita mo na ka-uniform siya. He was really a soldier. He was a JAGO member. And when the Americans started to organize the civil governments all throughout the Philippines, my father was appointed as the first military, civil mayor of Danao City. Eventually, paglipat namin dito, he became governor for 2 terms. Yan ang buhay ho namin dito. But what really was, what was in the family? Simply po, my father, so you can just rightly assume that when he was a soldier, he was a soldier. So, the love of country. Ang nanay ko naman, ito yung sa civic. Having come from a mixed blood, so she, makita mo in the portrayals there, she's with the Moro, she's with the Lumad. Ganon ang buhay ng nanay ko. Right after she retired as a supervisor sa Department of Education. She was a teacher. So, yan ang istorya namin. She spent most of her time helping. Not necessarily the poor, but helping. Just to be there to help. Yan ang nakuha ko sa nanay ko, pati yung bunganga. My father was talagang tahimik na tao. Pag hindi mo kinausap, hindi ka kausapin noon. And why he became a mayor, hindi naman yun kasi he was just picked up from the ranks at the time. But yung naging governor, he was a very quiet man. And many of the complaints were they could hardly get into his garden sa buhay niya. He would never ask you anong problema mo. Ikaw ang magtanong, mayor, governor. Ako ang napunta sa nanay ko. So, nung na-mayor ako, I was really very strict. That's why there is no smoking, no firecrackers. Wala lahat, even the karaoke until now. I do not know if India still enforces the regulation. Walang karaoke after 9 because I told them that your neighbors are already sleeping. And the children have to wake up early. So if you keep on that patugtog at pati yung mga boses palaka, puro lasing, you are disturbing the public peace. Stricto ako dito because yun ang nakuha ko sa tatay ko rin. The law is the law as the law. Kaya ito ngayon kay President Marcos, simply, what is the law? The law is the law. It has no emotions at all. It says that if you are a president, and does that say you have a record of a dictatorship or whatnot, or being a gentle despot. Walang sinabi niyan. The law says that if you are a soldier, you are qualified to be there. And if you are the president, you are supposed to be buried there if you want to. Kaya ako nauna na ako to obviate possible wranglings if I die tomorrow. I want my whatever remains of my remains, burn it. And that's what happened because my mother, she was a high-profile civic leader. She was president for so many times, yung mga Girl Scout, lahat na yun. Mental health. Hinawakan niya yan for so many years. Ako ang hindi niya na sa mental health. Yun ang niya. But ang sabi talaga niya, if I die, 24 hours. But of course, she was maybe the practices of a Moro, Marano mother. Kaya namatay siya 3 o'clock in the morning, at 1 o'clock noon. Kasi 24 oras, sabi ko, wag na. Sabi niya, within 24 hours. So, nung namatay, walang nakaalam sa Davao, napatay pa lang nanay ko. Sabi nila, saan binuburol ang nanay mo? Sabi ko, walang burol. Wala na, sunog na. And the ashes spread all throughout the place where she used to farm the lands in the mountains. Ako ganon rin. Let us make the record straight. Burn me immediately and place it, my ashes, beside my mother's urn. So wala kayong problema kung umatay, kung malibing ako dyan o hindi. Bigay mo lang sa maraming... Well, anyway, dito tayo sa... What brought really si Wen, pati yung ibang makausap ko, si Mr. Ramon Ang, whom I deeply respect. Hindi ko sabihin nakikita kami noon na nag-usap kami ng politiko o pera. But because of a mutual friend, nakakain kami doon. I get invited to eat yung masarap na baka. Anong pangalan niya yawa na yan? Wag yung... So, may masarap eh. Doon, nakikita kami doon. And ang istorya ko naman ganito. You know, I know that there was a problem. I know that Davao City had a serious problem with drugs. But I could not really make the correct projection of how much went inside Davao City. The thing that I knew was talagang medyo malala at ang krimen mataas. So, sinabi ko, if I win, kindly get out of Davao City. Kayong mga kriminal, mga durugista, mga kidnapper, hold-upper, yung mga rapist, lalo ang hilig ninyo mag-rape tapos pumatay ng tao, hindi ko kayo paabutin ng istasyon sa pulis. If you kill your victim. And so it was. It came to pass na gano'n. So we had a lesser crime rate than the rest of the country. And I always win the best police na monopolize namin for so many years. But only for one reason. The police nagtatrabaho are or were working at that time. Kasi hindi ako pumapayag sa police, sabi ko, pag nandyan kayo at nandyan ang droga, sigurado yang kasali ka. Huwag mo akong bulahin kasi galing ako dyan sa baba. Binigyan talagang pinipiga ko. Every city police director na magpunta dito, makinig ko kayo kasi this is a matter of survival for the nation. I don't know what the tomorrow would bring us to, but ganito eh. Nung presidente ako, I promised you only 3 things. But most of the time, I would interject some statements about economic recovery, something like that. But I know na pag ang isang lugar magulo, maraming krimen, hindi talaga akyat yan. When I became mayor at the crossroads of the revolution of EDSA at itong mga NPA, and ang relasyon ko sa NPA was really very good because of my mother. She used to go to the mountains, kilala niya lahat. And sometimes bumababa, lalo na yung mga madre na kung saan-saan ang galing, wala namang dormitoryo, mga NPA rin pala, they would go to the house for the night. So yung pamilya namin, at sa yung dimension ko, medyo left-leaning ako. In matters of the social dimensions of life, how you deal with the rich and the poor, how you would strive to at least not really equalize, make the other side more comfortable than the other kasi nandyan na sa kanila lahat. Doon I was crossing the ideological borders. Something which was used against me during the first election in 1988 na ako kuno komunista. I am not a communist. Maybe I am a socialist. My father was a military man, became a military mayor, became a governor. I was once upon a time a prosecutor. I was doing trial work almost every day to earn my keep for 8 years. Paano ako So, yung ganon, madali kong kinausap ang left. Sabi ko, ako na ang mayor. I do not want a quarrel with you. Pero kung gusto ninyo, wala man ang magawa. You know my work, and you should know yours. So, umalis ko sa iyong mga Sparrow ang MPA. Ang naiwan dito sa Davao, ang mga kriminal. Because at that time sa martial law, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, Juan de la Cruz, Pedro, Sulpicio, pag anti-communist ka, the firearms will freely given. Baski sino dito, Alsamasa, lahat na anti-communist. And government itself was manufacturing paltik inside the barracks, ang tawag natin, Philippine National Police. They had a lathe machine and they were giving. Tama nga, nung nagkaroon ng armas, parang at it was already a parity. Tabla na. So, barilin mo ako, barilin kita. It helped. But the grave consequence of that was, after Marcelo, Kanilang Trabaho, puro may arma. Ano, hold up dito, hold up doon, kidnap dito, kidnap doon. Ako, knowing their contribution, at least during the violent days, medyo softy ako konti. Some of them were my friends. Pero yung it went out of control. Everybody who had a gun think that he was God. So nagtagulong. Kaya sabi ko, either huminto kayo, no, they would just enter any house here in Davao City noon and just hostage the family. And because you cannot withdraw more than 50,000 or even 1 million, let alone 2 million na, for the time that nandoon sila sa bahay, they were raping the wife, the children, and the helpers. So, naging ako, praning. So, I gave them the warning. Nung medyo ayaw, patayan kami. At pinatay ko talaga lahat. And I know, when I say that do not destroy my country because I will kill you, do not destroy or deprive us of our generation of children next to us because I will really kill you. There's really nothing wrong with it. Ay masisabihin ko, panayin kita, pag hindi ka umalis dito, I have every right as a mayor and as a president to utter those words. Even if they are ugly to hear and maybe a barbarian relic. Yun ang sinabi ko sa Maynila. Huwag ninyong gawin yan kasi papatayin ko kayo. Ang human rights speak that particular words and phrase. He was heard. And that was the basis of the EU. Yung abogado nila mga pulpul. Kung mga putang ina kayo, huwag niya akong sali sa kabukan ninyo. Every government leader, every policeman, even a civilian can say, you criminals, if you do wrong, I will kill you. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Kung sabihin mo, patayin mo si yung ganon, yung babae dyan, hanapin ninyo sa inyo yung video na yan, at tulan mo ng lieg, that's a different story. But even then, so that gave rise to itong ma-explain ko na lang sa inyo ang pag-inakit ko. So, I kept on threatening it because nag-umpisa na eh. But remember that there are still, may sasabihin ako sa inyo nga mawala ang kayo ng gana. So there were about 6-7 generals I fired immediately because they were into drugs. And perhaps you might want to think that who did the cleaning? Who was doing the cleansing, the purging? Kami? We never started it. Very much late. The early killings, wala kami pagna. Yung talian, tapos baluti ng plastic tape. Bakit magawa kami ng mami? We are not exporting mummies in this country. If you want to kill the guy, just shoot him in the head. Then, bakit mag-waste your time? And that would indicate something more serious in the game. Nung nag-umpisa na, tapos sabi ko, I will protect you. Just do your job. Arrest them, look out. puntahan ninyo sila, arrest them, and if they would resist violently, and you think he'll die, kill them. That's all he said. And that is still the order of the day. Gawain ninyo yan, yan ang utos ko. Ako ang bahala. I will protect you. At sinabi ko nung nagdumating ako, galing ako sa labas kagabi, sabi na yung police, si IDG, so, did not have, if they acted strictly in obedience to my order, in accordance with the rules of law, you don't have anything to worry. I'll answer for you. And if need be, I will go to prison for them. And if I rot in prison, so be it. Walang problema sa akin. I'm 72 years old. If you make some actuarial, pinakamalaki ko dyan is 5-6 years. And I get to read all the books that nakapatong na yung lahat. Hindi ko manabasa. No time. Ngayon, why? Well, according to Santiago, the PDEA head, during my time mo yata, ma'am, sa PDEA, he gave us a figure of 3 million Filipinos already afflicted with drug. Yung pag-umpisa ko, pati ako, I was appalled by this. What happened later on? Hundreds of thousands of Filipinos lining up in front of the police stations and the barangay, nagsusurrender at magpapagamot. I reckon that by the end of the year, hindi ako nag-add ng aking figures muna, hayaan mo na yun, let alone kay Santiago, I would have reached the 4 million mark. Plus 1 million, nag 4 million ako. Anak na. And these 4 millions are spread all throughout the country. Mga 6,000 policemen are into drugs. There are about 4,000 municipal mayors into drugs, a few city mayors, and about 1 or 2 congressmen, and another 4 governors. Mindanao lahat. How do we solve the problem? So when the validation sa aking numbers, ganito kakapal, that's why I called for which is really being done. I invited, we'll have a tia-tia of sorts sa Malakanan. Sabihin ko talaga sa inyo, Congressman Bob, you solve the problem. I cannot solve the problem. Every page, pag ganunin mo, puro pangalan yan. Ganun kakapal. Barangay captains, municipal mayors, police. Sabi ko, ginusto ko mang patayin ito. Mauubusan ako ng panahon. Hindi ko kaya to. Hindi ko talaga kaya. Anong gawin natin yan? Ang ibig kong sabihin, narco-politics is already here. And whether she pretends to be what she is not, Dilima opened the portals of narco-politics that started in the National Penitentiary. Doon naglaro, and until now, hindi na masyado ngayon. Kasi paski sa prisuhan, naglalaro ang mga putang ina nila. Yan ang problema natin. As a matter of fact, ang direksyon, sila lang may makakaalam eh. And kung magsyabaw ka dito na hindi ka kaparte na dito, talagang yayariin ka. Papasabugin ka dyan, ganun ka, tapos gobyerno, may gobyerno ba naman mag-granada? Pag kasi ngayon, ano na sila, because yung the ruling elite ng drugs nandyan sa loob ng prison, Chinese. Pati yung cohorts nila. Kerwin has a list. I hope he comes back alive. Patay na yung tatay niya. Tatay nila, sabi nila na sinalvage or that's a loose term. Salvaging, the word salvaging is really salvage of the wreckage of a ship that has sunk. And there's this salvage law that governs it. I don't know how it came about, but it was used in a popular na salvage yung pinapatay. May listahan siya. Same na mga listahan yung nakuha na natin sa iba. May mga pulis na doon. Same. Halos pareho. O dikta, lahat yung mga big time dito sa... So, ang akin is, I am the president. Of course, I have the powers. But it's a very limited, but powerful, limited functions. I cannot for the life of me imagine where I have to execute 5-10 Filipinos every day before a firing squad. Because for one person alone to build a case, to gather the proof, I would need 2 or 3 policemen, about isang linggong surveillance bago ko makuha yung gusto kong ebidensya. Kaya kita mo naman, kung gano'n ang gawin ko, how do I cope up? And besides, I cannot prove it beyond reasonable doubt. Kaya kita, cellphone lang eh. Kaya pinag-aawayan yung cellphone kasi nandyan lahat. But there are other ways that we can maybe know what you are really doing, what you are up to. But at this time, I am not privileged to alam ni Presidente Arroyo. But we can only do so much. Nabalik tayo doon sa confirmed figures ni at 200 per kung family man yan, that's about 6,000 a month sa 3 million. It would sum up to like 18 billion. Yearly, that's about 216 billion a year industry. Yung pera niyan, yung iba nagtatrabaho, instead of the money going to the table for the food of the family, medisina, edukasyon, pag ang head of the family tinamaan, tabla na. They go hungry. So there is already a social dysfunction. Kasi itong pagkakaramayan dyan, the middle class, maghiwalay yan. Alam ninyo, alam ko marami maghiwalay, ang mga bata wala na. So, kasi ang tatay, nire-rape niya minsan ng anak niya. Nangyari dito sa Davao yan, dyan sa Insular Village. Dito, mga hiwalay. Tapos, rehab ng rehab. Ang rehab is about doon sa going rate sa capital city, I think it's about 300,000 per person. Kinumpute namin sa government, it would amount to 1 trillion. Pinari-compute ko sa gobyerno kay Sunny Dominguez with all the minus, you would need about 800 plus per person. 1,000. Na detox, tapos for a few months, then learning the skills of ano pa ang kaya nila. But there are persons using drugs more than 1 year. Yung Amerikano na rin nagbigay niyang data na yan. That if you end up with a shrunk brain, no more redemption, no rehab will be possible. Kaya, kung yan lang naman ang ma-accomplish ko sa pagka-presidente ko, I don't care if I have no illusion. Sabi nila, you want to impeach me? Go ahead. Be my guest. Sabihin nila na patay nila ako, the better. Hindi makapakingat tayo ng medyo aga-aga. Pero hindi ako atras dito. And I would insist that the version of the police in the killing of Mayor Espinosa is the correct version insofar as I am concerned. And I will not abandon them. If they go to prison, so would I. Yan ang because the greater danger, I know na ninyo lang. I know this is a world of hypocrisy. But there is more than meets the eye. It's the preservation of the Filipino children. Hindi lang na, bakit mo pakialaman? 3,000 dead? Samantalang ako, 23 years ako mayor dito, ang napatay ko lang daw, 1,000. Bakit cheapskate? Kuripot ako kung gano'n sa buhay ng tao. Talagang papatayin kita . Because you are destroying my country. Ako yung naabutan sa kamalas-malas. Hindi pa doon sa isa. It was because when I became president, I started to squeeze. Yung mga assignment, siguro, ikaw, gusto ka o niyan. Pero sabi ko, tang-ina ninyo, huwag niyo akong lukuhin. Do not ever monkey with me. Huwag niyo akong lukuhin. But I started to squeeze them. Lumabas. Kita mo sa TV, not alone would give you the scare of your life. Ano ba naman yung 3,000? Di mo na siguro kung pinatay ba talaga? Hindi naman talaga . Lalo yung binabalot, nagagalit ako dyan. Hindi kanila. Alam nila, ayaw ko ng kabastusan yung parang mami, gastos ma. Torture maybe, but we are not into it. There are many ways of doing it. May tubig, lagay mo lang yung ulo dyan sa balon. Yun ang Chinese style yung balot-balot. So yan that's really my message. My mother was a civic leader. And she was also really doing something for her fellow men. Ako hindi ko hayaan ito. I would consider it a failure. Na mawala ako sa presidente tapos ganito ang sitwasyon. I would be terribly disappointed. But ako, impeachment, see, as long as I am impeached or I am killed, and the reason is because I was just trying my best to do something for my country, that's it. I don't need the praises and everything. It is not worth my while. Ba't pinatay? Gusto talaga niya na. So for as long as the problem is there, as long as there is a pusher in the street or on the street, as long as there are drug lords who are still doing it and alive, this thing will continue until the end of my term. Kailan yan, ewan ko. Pero talagang hihiritan ko. Hindi ako pwedeng magpaano. I know that it is something terribly perception. Depends kung saan ka. Mine is self-defense in defense of the helpless children na they are not in a position to really weigh things, and even yung ano. It is a defense of a race. It is in defense of my fellow men. Sa ganong karami, with people now elected into public office, we are now in narco-politics. And if you want to see a horror of the stories there, you can read Ion Grillo, I-O-N, G-R-I-L-L-O. Makuha mo yan dyan sa internet, online. Then cartel, then the drug lords. Exactly the first 100 pages, the Philippines is going that way. But as long as I am in that office there, I will never allow it. Magkapatayan na tayo kung patayan. Now, ngayon, I will try to connect because there is a rebellion. Ang motive, grabe ang bakbakan dito, baka akala ninyo. There's a rebellion, there's a rebellion being waged now in Mindanao. At kung magkalat itong still lawlessness, I might be forced to, ayaw ko. Warning ko lang sa kanila, ayaw ko. Kasi hindi maganda. But if you force my hand into it, I will declare the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. Not martial law. Wala akong balak sa politika. But I will, kasi wala akong remedy. I cannot issue an order without a valid. I have to build a case one by one. Itong sa police na meron po. I will declare a suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. Pick-upin ko yan lahat. Dalhin ko dyan sa samal, butasan ko yung samal sa gitna para lumubog. Kasali na sila. Mamili sila. Totoo. If you don't give me a choice, then you box me in a corner and I find myself helpless because we have, kaya nandyan yan eh. Those are really provisions intended to protect the Republic of the Philippines. I can be ordered by the Supreme Court, stop it, but there are things that they cannot. And maybe I will not stop. Bahala, sabihin ko na muna, tapusin ko to, tapos I can go to jail. File all the charges that you can think of. But this country, in my time, will not deteriorate any further. At yung kung sakali magdating na yung mga tulong na... Now, let me talk about America. Para maintindihan. Alam ko, maraming, the middle class, pati anong Pilipinas, pro-American talaga yan. Wala man akong away sa Amerika. And you can ask President Arroyo. I never said anything about them in the past. Pero yung akin na, that lumabas na itong extrajudicial killing, they would like to assume na yung 3,000 plus, going 4,000, para pinatay ng gobyerno. Then threatening me that I will go to the International Court of Justice. For what? For saying that I will kill you if you destroy my country? Ano mo sa akin? For saying that if you destroy the next generation, I will kill you. So what's wrong with that? Ito mga abogado na ginamit pa. He was heard saying, I will kill you all. And so, you want me to go to prison for saying, I will kill you because you are destroying the Republic of the Philippines. Mga bugok. Siguro, mga Harvard o Cambridge yan. Kung ganun pala po, sabi ko, wala kayo dito. Dito tayo mag-trial. Tignan natin kung saan kayo pulutin. Stupid. Kaya lahat na ng pangalan. Ang Amerika ganito. Ito lang ang simple. and I will end my talk. Every time that they would criticize me in writing or verbal mga TV, they would always have that phrase, we will suspend or we will cut the aid and assistance to your country. Every time, be it the human rights, ulol, tapos itong iyo, mga turpe talaga. State Department, isa pa kayo dyan. Tapos din Obama. Nung sinabi ng Obama, nag-react na, pati ikaw turpe ka. You know, do that. When I was mayor, I was heavily criticized for the situation. Okay lang. But when I became president, do not reprimand me in public. Paya ang Pilipino. Hindi na alam. They should have realized, ka-bright na mga putang inang yan, hindi na naisip itong mga ulul, let's say kayo, that I was carrying on my shoulder the sovereignty. I'm now representing a country, tapos you reprimand me publicly. At saka sabihin mo na we will not give the aid. Baka parang tinalian mo ako sa isang poste dito, tapos yung pan, itatapon mo doon sa malayo. At until his tongue drops to the ground, para bang gutom. May Bisaya kami yan. Huwag ninyo kami, para bang patay gutom kami. We will survive. Pag if I get the blame sa Filipino people, sabi mo, I will accept it, but someday you'll understand it. There is such a thing as dignity. Dignity of a race, not me. However you look at me, maliit, insignificant, fine, I don't need it even. Pero wag yung ganun-ganun, because every time you do that and you represent the Republic of the Philippines, ginagawa mo kami mo, patay ko ito, mga putang ina ninyo, let's say kayo. Doon ako nagaling. Kaya ako, pagalitin mo ako, what will be my defense? I was trying to explain to the people, yung 3,000 na yan, hindi namin trabaho, but nobody was listening. I tried to explain the gravity of the offense. Ayaw din lang makinig. Katitik sila doon sa AG extrajudicial. Kaya sabi ko, ayaw ninyo makinig. O sabi ko, hoy, mga putang ina ninyong letse kayo, mga torpe kayo, o then, they took notice. Sino yung nagmumura ng presidente natin? Di sino pa di ako? Letse kayo lahat. Sige, diyan kayo. Gusto niyo, diyan kayo, diyan. Di napansin na nila ako ngayon. So magtanong ka, sinong mayor ng Buenos Aires ngayon? Hindi mo alam. Sinong mayor ng Kilong City sa Taiwan? Hindi mo alam. Tanong mo, sinong mayor sa governor sa presidente sa Pilipinas? Duterte. Bakit? Kami lang tatlo. Ako, si Obama, si Jiping, pati siya dyan. Kami lang nag-aagawan dyan sa Al Jazeera. O, di putang ina ninyo. Ang kilalanin ninyo ako. Mayawa kayo. Maraming salamat po. Again, Sir Monang, thank you for perpetuating the memory of my mother. That I will remember it for all time. When, salamat sa
Thank you.
sa pagkabait ninyo.